Good morning, this is Benjamin Higby, Cave Crusher. Today I'm going to do an article um, that is very interesting so people can get an insight um, of my um, analysis I have been doing for the past year since um, I started doing my Substack last year on how the world is shifting rapidly during our proxy war using Ukraine to fight Russians, um, evil Russians. So at that aspect, I talked about what we were doing with China um, during the Rona psyop, and I done an article, an interesting article with a long research and history of digital currencies, the linkage between big big banking and big tech, and this is where people like to talk about hopium when it comes to um, the targeted countries um, going alternative route to our path of capitalism. That is where our system is getting very destructive on the world stage, and that is leading more and more countries that really had enough, um, that they don't want to um, keep having to fund at the expense of greedy people in New York and City of London. Um, you know, war games at the expense of ordinary people's economic development and prosperity in the majority of countries across the globe, and that includes the allies in retrospect in these factions. Um, what is worrying the WEF board and governance actors, um, people like Crystalina, butchered her name, don't give a fuck. She is worried about um, multipolar world risking a new Cold War. This IMF chief below, because she is worried that, um, and it's not a coincidence that this new development bank this past week um, formally inaugurated Dilma, a bank that has 100 billion in the bank for, and each of its members have 50% shares to it. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And she is worried about this kind of institutions, alternative institutions popping up that will destroy the traditional um, non-existent Bretton Woods institutions that have been neoliberalized further and further, um, and detached from the original gold status um, system of Bretton Woods, um, which Bretton Woods was which was oligarchs' vision to neoliberalize countries. We've been doing that for a long time. This was inevitable because it was designed that way. Um, that was what the Bretton Woods was really about. Um, She's worried about the uh, the emerging partners, concerns of underlying undersea communications that could spark a revolution of the internet in the 21st century that will create a less Western dominant internet space with the splinternet, which Western regimes project targeted countries that um, these authoritarian regimes like quote, quote, China, Iran, Russia is creating a splinternet so they can quote quote censor their people. No, it's a wall to it's like it's a wall on the imperialists from inserting their propaganda channels um, into the internet space, um, creating avenues and opportunities to usurp governments across the globe, for regime change and making their economies scream and doing psychological things to the population to destroy their own system, their own government that they trusted. Um, and this is about destroying nations. This is about breaking nations. This is about um, putting one global hegemony, one size fits all, as people called it, quote unquote, one world government, which is basically a college of big business class dictating the world, and countries have to adhere to it. And countries are just mere jurisdictions. They have no autonomy, they have no sovereignty, they have no independence, and they have no national constitution. The only constitution thereof will be a big business treaty enacted in all countries. This is basically um, World Health World Health Organization to the max in a different in a political economic uh, scale, rather than just the health aspect, the health aspect, and it is worrying people. It's worrying elites inside the Americans, the United States, and the United Kingdom, that allowing the global economy to separate into US-led quote unquote democratic, which is fake democracies, fascists, West on one side, and China and Russia and other US rivals on the other, would be catastrophic for smaller nations. They used to control. They're losing control over, as smaller nations are depending on China, Russia, Iran, bigger nations, um, in this multipolar space, as well as Brazil, depending on Brazil in the Latin American space, somewhat Mexico. This is going to create it. It's going to create a world that is going to be very hard for Western imperialists, big business imperialists, to impose their value system, their economic systems um, on. It's not going to favor them in the bargaining negotiations on the table. It's not going to. It's going to be hard for them to really take back control, the lost controlling interests they had, and this was the plot. This was the business plot they wanted with the World Economic Forum global reset using sunshine on targeted countries as well as countries, smaller targeted countries that are stubborn to Western interests, against Western interests. And this is making our geopolitical chess games hard to um, capture nations. It's making it hard for us to capture 85% of the world uh, market, uh, the market we need to survive on, um, as, uh, as under our parasitical system, because there's red alarm bells that is taking place, and it's being shown across the American political elite. They're seeing their own allies fleeing from the US dollar, de-dollarizing from the dollar. France talking about less dependency on the United States. BRIC countries are already discussing issuing a common currency unit where they will link their national currencies to be backed by commodities such as gold, silver, oil, um, wheat, other natural resources, whether it's food, energy, technology. Meanwhile, the G7 is trying to survive through um, financialization, innovation, for for their tricks, new tricks, creating new tricks of keeping their Ponzi scheme alive using high technology and biotechnology. This is a different strategy between the G7 and Unipolar and the multipolar world. This is the difference between New World Order and the Old World Order. You know, a period of a historical period we used to have when back then during the 40s, mid 40s, um, early 30s, mid 40s, when we had a post World War economic expansion through a model of regulated markets, um, from FDR to uh, Keynesian in the UK in 1945, which um, created a multipolar world, um, of when when Soviet Union existence were competing with the United States and was a competitor of the of capitalism itself. Um, when schisms exist existed back then, alongside the Sino and other Indo, India, other players, um, back then. Um, Today is back to that. Today is the emergence back, going back to that, leaving the unipolar world order behind, which is making them scared. This new world order is a big idea by former Vice President of the Reagan administration, George Bush Sr., who became president after Reagan in the 90s, early 90s, that in his September 11th 1991 speech 10 years before 9/11, he said that the New World Order is a big idea. And if you want to get the video, you can research it on YouTube. I'll put the links below. So if you want to get an understanding, you must read my Substack article here, and also read the history of decentralized digital currencies. This is the reality. We are witnessing the world dumping US treasuries. We also see allies dumping treasuries. There's a YouTube channel. I can't find it, but it was useful. I can't find it, but yes, I'm not a fan of financial um, YouTube channels, but it gives you an insight of what's going on, and you can see the updates of what's de-dollarization is taking place. You can see um, France. We already know that France and Saudi sold off US debt, selling off the US debt through the treasuries, and to reduce any more calamities into the economy, as we are seeing Europe on fire and the decline of our economies in the West. And they have to get rid of toxic assets. Um, you know, within the US states, they're trying to legislate, go back dollars, stuff like that. But it's just the small 5 states. They think it's going to make any significant, you know, um, interest is clear. Um, the private interest of the Federal Reserve cannot be challenged. And if it's challenged, then you're going to see a lot of disintegration of the dollar itself within. And at the same time, Yellen is running around again to go back to visit China and beg the Chinese to slow down their selling off of their treasuries. You can watch it around here. You know, there's a whole lot of shit um, going on at a rapid rate where you cannot um, catch up. So this is the reality right here. That people like to keep doing false equivalencies, um, and like to keep proving board of trustees, not boredom. Yeah, that's the not that one. Leadership and governance. I was writing within. They like to keep doing. Yeah, there you go. There you go. She's part of the World Economic Forum leadership and governance. So this is why I tell people to look at the bigger picture and stop looking in a narrow view and think everything is monolithic. Things are not monolithic. You can't use our model and slap it as the world. It doesn't function. The world don't function our way. Um, there are different interests. There are some that function like us. They are partners with us. They are a mixture. They partner with us while they partner with, the global south and the east, the BRICS nations. And there is other nations that just partnership with the BRICS due to so much sanctions placed against them. There's plenty of targeted countries. There's more than just the big three that are targeted by sanctions. So there you go. There's a profile of her. And these are the board of trustees. This is a big business coup going on. This is a demolition of our economies. And this was a 50-year plan, and it's very interconnected with other institutions. The Tavistock, um, Bilderberg, um, the Chatham House, which is the oldest, which is a clear strategy with the financial oligarchs, the big business oligarchs in the City of London and New York. And don't forget CFR, Council of Foreign Relations. These institutions are loose. These financial networks, these financial people, these financial elites are loose networks, but intertwined within the global economy of the West. The global economy refers to westernized world, westernized capital markets. Some in that context, not always in the context of world economies across the globe. It's a context that is very distinctive, like quote unquote international community, that refers to Western markets. So that is because context is very important for people to understand how um, our systems work, our economic systems work. Um, and there you go. This is it. The public-private cooperation agenda. It's all about transforming our financial system because our financial system, our economic system, has a life, a shelf of life. And I've mentioned that it's waiting for a major operating system update to be rolled out when things come crashing down. Our cheap debt system comes crashing down. We did quantitative tightening deliberately through Jackson Hole to bring, um, originally to bring targeted countries economies to scream. So in hope that we pray and wait for quote unquote regimes we don't like, countries we don't like, targeted countries we don't like, their governments to fall. But that did not happen. That doesn't happen. That failed because their system is different from ours. It's not attached to ours. We blocked them from our global financial system, our capital markets. Through SWIFT, we blocked any business transactions as well, and certain strategic sectors, sanctioning of sectors, stuff like that. At the same time, China themselves, at the private sector level, many of those companies already left the Western markets. It's already been reported last year that major Chinese tech companies um, delisted. Chinese companies other than tech delisted from New York Stock Exchange, trying to get through historically that have benefited from the neoliberal elements of the country, of mainland, where they could set up loopholes in our CIA base, military, our CIA Asian division base, as well as our financial base, Western financial base, the historical neo-colonial Hong Kong that used to be under British control. We used to set up financial loops inside Hong Kong and other autonomies in China outside of the mainland. Um, and also, you know, where Chinese businesses do the same so they can get access to our capital markets in New York or London, like Wall Street or City of London. Or, you know. So this gives you an insight of how they function, how we play strategically, and you know, as a result, we felt our cards because we rushed through this to do this. Since we were, because we are greedy, we are greedy. The oligarchs are greedy. So last year, Klaus Schwab's teacher Kissinger warned him and his elite class at Davos that if you go this path, if you rush this path, this is what happens. This is what happens. And they knew this. They knew this years because they would be planning this strategy, this plan A. They got their plan B and it's inward. But this was their plan A and they lost it. And they knew they were going to lose it because the US is no longer going to be the world's reserve currency. They knew this. Markets are looking towards the East. They're no longer looking towards our traditional financial system. They're leaving. They're going there, just like their scientists. They're going down to the Chinese financial centers because China offers a better business deal, and China beaten our capitalist game just like Russia did under Putin's leadership. This is what under Xi's leadership. This is we beat the Chinese beaten our capitalist game, and we can't compete in that large macroeconomic scale of when it comes to infrastructure, lending, and that China provided a better mousetrap instead of our debt slave loan shark model from the IMF. And we're upset that we are losing in the tech front when it comes to whether it's social media platforms and artificial intelligence. This is what's taking place. And that's why markets need China more than China needs them. Western markets need China more than China needs them, to be specific. They need the money. They need the money. They're losing money. They're losing money. And the plan B is already here. It's already here since we've taken this path of trying to destroy targeted countries desperately. This heartland theory we've been having for the past century. We are going inward in targeting the domestic population, in destroying the domestic population. I saw the video circulating already online. People are now trying to connect WF, Israeli, gay Israeli, Harari, Yuval, on his comment on civil war, stuff like that in America. But I think it's videos nowadays can be manipulated, and you can't trust no source because they don't bring any links and evidence or where he says that. And see, with the AI, things are very sophisticated in capturing people's voices and their lips and manipulating videos nowadays, especially when the video is blurry, crappy quality, where people can't see how a video is doctored. So as a result, they are these agents, castle sting agents online, are using these doctored videos, sometimes manipulated videos, in various ways to um, so they can use fact checkers to shut down discussion, shut down dissent as a pathway to censorship, basically. And that's what we're doing. That's what's happening right now. Our globalization is failing. Our globalization model is failing, and it shows right here that globalization is code word for imperialism. It's it's about imposing our neo-colonialism on countries, and this is the mask, the real mask, emperor with no clothes, because we use that word in corporate euphemisms to attract youngsters, to attract naive people that think globalization is some good thing for the world, and we think it's for the greater good and collective and all this stuff. It's corporate mentality that I think is all positive and nice and green and futuristic. Um, I try to find out futuristic meme or something like that. I can't find it, but there's something with how we see globalism, and this is what we see. This is our idea of globalism. If the world, if this nonsense, you know, this is this is soft fascism. This is soft fascism, as people call it, soft fascism. You know, using euphemisms. Nice and flashy documents of how clean and green spaces the infrastructure is, and all this stuff that you're gonna get, and everything is carbon free, pollution free, and all that bullshit. Yeah, 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 yeah. This is uh this is reality. This is reality. This is the reality. This is our model. This is real life of globalization. This shit. This is what we've been doing, sucking countries' wealth for decades, for centuries. It's just a new face. Colonialism in a new face, a new friendlier face. You know, they use the lovely hands, those two hands of a man with a suit, thinking he's helping the world. You know, this nonsense euphemisms. And it's catching up to them. The reality is catching up to them. Nobody wants that. This is what she is worried about. This is what she is worried about. You see, the new head of BRICS Development Bank, Dilma. There you go. That will be financing hard infrastructure, not trying to impose Malthusian and neoliberal crap, living within your means and living in scarcity because the world is scarcity according to them, but it's not scarcity when it comes to their greed. Their greed is abundance. In reality, the world is full of abundance of minerals and natural resources that countries want to transform to develop their economies and get out of this cycle, the parasitical cycle of poverty that we have created for decades through our history. We cannot ignore that people like to detach and think they're slick by detaching and erasing the history of colonialism and imperialism. And the mentality is pick up yourself from your bootstraps the same way we do to the domestic population in our westernized countries. It's your fault that you are poor. You chose to be poor. Yeah, people chose to be poor. Yeah, countries chose to be poor. No, no. Poverty is by design. System designed it. Systematic poverty was created by design. It's not organic. There's no such thing as organic poverty. It does not exist. There you go. That's what she's scared about. Okay. See you in the next video. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.